Welcome to Fully In It, a show for moms who are called to grow themselves while growing their families. Join me, Kate Saffel, a life and a business coach for moms, a homeschooling mama of 3, and a woman on a quest to show that our lives become even more meaningful when we remember why we are here and what truly matters most. This show is about going fully in it for you and the people you love by showing up powerfully in motherhood, entrepreneurship, in your home life, and for your family vision. Join me for weekly episodes that will inspire you to live intentionally and by your values, to slow down and truly be present to your family life, to make decisions that grow a profitable business without sacrificing anything in the process, and to become the kind of mom and woman you know you're meant to be in this lifetime. Welcome to episode 119 of the Fully In It podcast. I wanted to begin this episode by first giving a shout out to Jess P for her review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much, Jess, for taking the time to leave a review and letting me know how much you are loving this podcast. I want to remind all of you that when you leave reviews, it lets other people know that this podcast is worth listening to. It helps rank it so that more people can even find my podcast. And I want to thank you for doing that. So when you leave a review, take a screenshot of it and then message me on Instagram at Happier in Motherhood. And I would love to send you a link to a private 2.5 hour long video playlist of home, life, and business trainings that are pure gold. You are going to love it. And I just appreciate you so much helping me spread the word. So we are about halfway through the year. I am recording this at the very end of June, and we are about to start business quarter 3 in July, which is just insane. I feel like this year has completely flown by. How are you personally feeling about it? Are you enjoying the heck out of growing your business and raising your family? Are you loving it? Or has it felt challenging? Have there been moments of difficulty? I am committing to spending the next 6 months, so the rest of this year, making the most out of this season of mothering, my 3 kiddos, homeschooling, and powerfully leading my business so that I can finish 2023 epically strong. My goal with all of this is to have the time of my life, to savor and enjoy every single step along the way. Does this speak to you too? Do you want to break free of going through the motions and step into your most joyful and empowered self? It takes one decision, you guys. One decision can change everything for you. And I want to invite you to join me in this for the next 6 months on a secret Instagram feed where I will be transparently and intimately sharing a backstage pass to how I run a 6-figure business, lead a team, homeschool, parent, make my home, and do it all with joy. And do it all with a sense of purpose and delight in this season of my life. So each week on this secret private free feed, I'm going to be dropping 2 to 3 deep dive recordings that are going to encompass what I am learning, how I'm growing, how I'm leading, and also how you can directly apply it to your own life. Now, this kind of information I generally only share with private clients or in a high-level mastermind that I'm leading, although I'm not currently leading one, which means that this information was normally only accessible if you were willing to invest at a really high level. And I want to do things differently. And I want to support more of you. And I don't want to gatekeep on these ideas because I know that they will bless you. I know that they will support you. I know they will catalyze you to grow into your next level self. So the best part about this Instagram membership that I'm offering is that it's just $29 a month, which is just insane. Because here's the thing is that how easy is it to waste $29 on stuff you buy on Amazon or at Target and you don't even think about it? You don't even remember it a few months from now, right? It's not going to change your life. But this $29 a month and making the decision to invest in you and putting yourself in a community where high-level concepts and ideas are being shared, it could change everything for you. So I would love to see you in there. We start on July 1st, and the link is in the notes for this episode. So if you go to your podcast player, you should see the link right there under this episode. And you and I can spend the next 6 months growing together so that by New Year's Eve, you will have so much to celebrate, to be proud of, and you are going to be able to see all of the ways that you have experienced more joy and more delight and more presence by making this the time of your life. So I hope to see you in there. Okay, so this podcast topic that we're going to be diving into is one that I hope you're ready for, because your brain may be saying, hey, Kate, it's summertime. School's not back in season yet. I'm going to be living my best life, and I don't really want to think about what is coming later this year. And I want to invite you to the idea that as leaders, we're always thinking ahead. We are always deciding what is going to be the best use of my time for moving both my business and my family vision forward. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about how I am planning for this fall, for next school year, when it comes to growing my business, leading my business, and making sure my kids are taken care of, both with homeschooling and in home life. And so I invite you to think with me, to think ahead, to think as the CEO of your business of what it is that is going to serve you and your family in this incredible life that you are creating together. So I like to think 1 to 2 quarters ahead, business quarters, so that I am prepared. And the reason why is that one of the big decisions I have to make is hiring more childcare. Because, I run my business from home, and Kirk went back to work last fall. This was, I've talked about it in a few episodes. Prior to that, my husband was a stay-at-home dad for 2 years, and that was just, my business made that possible. We savored that time together. But then ultimately, he decided that working is important to him. And as a man, that is just something that feels right. Like he wants to contribute in that way. He wants to be intentional in what he is creating and doing in the world. And quite frankly, he didn't want to be a stay-at-home dad anymore. So he went back to work, and this is going to be the foreseeable future where I'm going to be running my business from home, as well as my husband being out of the house. So we for sure will need childcare, and this is because our babysitter is actually going out of state for college in August. We are so bummed, but I am incredibly hopeful that the most amazing person is going to drop into our lives and is just going to be such a help for our family going forward. So whenever I am thinking about my schedules and how I want to use my time, I'm always going to vision set from the very beginning. Okay, so I don't want to start with problems. I don't want to get into the weeds of time management. I want to get clear on how it is I want home life to feel, how I want it to feel running my business. Who am I being as I am doing these things? And what are my priorities in this next season of life? I am personally anticipating another massive growth leap in my business. I'm so ready for it. I'm so ready to welcome in more. And this also requires me having more uninterrupted time and being able to plan ahead. The other thing that I am thinking about is that my kids are starting classical conversations for homeschooling this next year. We're going to try this out. I had a friend who just like highly recommended we do it. I've had other people be like, you're crazy. Like that's the toughest kind of homeschooling. I don't really know. I prefer to make my own conclusions once I am in something and decide. But even when I make any decision, I always am going to decide to have my own back. So I've already decided this is a great decision no matter what, no matter how the year goes, we're in it. However, I want to make sure that my kids feel supported in this transition because we're going to be doing things differently than we've ever done in homeschooling before. We've been like pretty laid back when it comes to homeschooling. We use a curriculum, and that's been great. Like it's given us guidance, but with classical, they're going to be going in person 1 day a week. And I guess they kind of learn everything for the next week while they're there. So then we come home and we practice everything and we review it until we go back again. But they're going to be like learning Latin and stuff, which is just like crazy, and it's exciting. And like I said, I'm really hoping that this is the right decision, but we are just going all in with it. So those are the two things, like anticipating big growth in my business and then supporting my kids in homeschooling and making sure that their needs are being met academically as well as just for them as people. The other thing I'm thinking about are my boundaries, and I want to just encourage you. We always want to think about like, where are my hard and fast lines when I am scheduling my time? You don't want to be a leaky vessel where anybody and anything can tap into your time and energy. You get to be boundaried up and not feel bad about it. I know so many of you fall back into people pleasing. You don't want to disappoint anyone. You don't want to make someone feel bad. And so then you decide to be the one who feels bad on their behalf because you don't want to tell them no. So I am thinking about where are my boundaries, and I know that my next level in business, I am not a CEO who works on the weekends or the evenings. I don't do it that much right now, but I get kind of leaky with Instagram because I really enjoy it. It's like my playground. So I can very easily justify being on Instagram on the weekends as well as the evenings. So one of my goals going into this fall is that as a family, we are able to take 3-day weekends, a lot of weekends, and go completely unplug at like a state park or one of the beautiful springs here in Florida. Like we live in the most magical state when it comes to nature. Now I've traveled all over the United States, so there's a lot of really beautiful places, but I've also lived in parts of the country where you don't really have access to a lot of like natural resources. So I feel really grateful that we're here and we still have our fifth wheel that we traveled full time in. It's just sitting in storage right now and we've thought about selling it. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but we've got it right now. So I figure while we have it, we're going to use it. Right? So the cool thing about a lot of these state parks and the springs is that they actually don't have good cell phone signal. I figured that out while we were traveling full time and we spent some time here in Florida. I remember I was launching the second round of the Purposeful Moms Club and we had gotten to Rainbow Springs State Park. We got the most perfect site. It was like for those of you who camp, okay, you'll get this. It was a pull-through site. It was right by the bathrooms and the laundry. And oh my gosh, we were so excited because just go right now and Google Rainbow Springs, Florida, and you're going to see how gorgeous it is. Well, we got there and I'm setting up like my tech. I'm plugging in our modem and I'm checking the speeds. And I have like maybe 1 bar. Like the connection was so bad. And I was getting ready to host a workshop like in 2 days that was going to be the kickoff for me selling into the Purposeful Moms Club. And I was like, oh my gosh, Kirk, like what am I going to, I can't do this. I have to have a good signal. Like, how am I going to lead this workshop? And so we decided to hitch up and leave. And this was like the silly thing, like now looking back, like I wish I would have just taken a breath and paused and not rushed, but I did. So we got out of the campsite and we drove around for a few hours going to different like RV parks trying to find one with a better signal. And I swear it was like everywhere we went, it didn't work out. We felt so discouraged. So we finally just booked a hotel in like the nearest town. And the funny thing is, where we booked is the Villages of Florida. And again, if you don't know anything, it is like a 55 plus planned community where it's like a party every single day. So we go there, we get set up, and I like take the kids into the Villages to get ice cream. And they're like in their town center, they're having like a dance, and there's all these retired people, like whooping and hollering on their golf carts, and like they are just literally having the time of their life. And we were the youngest people there by far, and it was so fun. But I was disappointed that we didn't stay at Rainbow Springs. My kids were disappointed, and now I really want to do that again. I want to go back, but this time I'm going in and I'm using that lack of cell phone signal intentionally so that I can take some pauses and I can take some breaks by being off of technology. So what this means overall is that I would be doing like a 4-day work week, right? So I have to be very intentional and organized and on top of my time blocks to make sure I'm getting my work done Monday through Thursday, and I feel really good about packing up and leaving on Friday and not looking back and then coming back in on Monday and being ready to go. So I want to talk to you about how I am planning for the amount of time that I need. One of the deciding factors is me deciding what my financial goal is for the rest of the year. And the reason I start there is because we need a target of where we're going. So for you, you want to think about, do you want to create your first 5K in the next 6 months? Do you want to create 25K? Do you want to create 50K? Like, what would be that number for you in gross sales that would feel so juicy, so incredible, so empowering? So for me, my goal is to create an additional 100K in gross sales over the next 6 months. And for me to commit to this, I have to actually have a plan for how I'm going to do it, which I do have a plan. But this is a reminder for you too, that sometimes we've got to like look at the numbers, we have to look at the schedule, and then we leave the rest up to God, higher power, whatever you believe in, and we just trust that when we set that intention, we're going to show up differently, and that is going to create the result that we want. So when I run the numbers, I know that I can create the bulk of this by adding just 25 more women to expand mentoring membership by the end of 2023. So that would be right at 74,000, which would be, the majority of that 100K number. And then I know that I can lean on private coaching as well as some of the smaller offers that I make throughout the year to create that other 25K. And just being open to however that money wants to come in to my business. So something I do want you to keep in mind though, because you hear me talking about this, whenever you hear someone talking numbers, you need to know that my take home of that is about half. So that once I pay my team, I pay my taxes, I pay my business expenses, I'm going to take home 50, maybe 60% depending on that month. And honestly, that's pretty damn good. Some people I know, I've got a lot of peers in the online industry. I get the scoop of what's really happening in people's businesses, and some of them may only be taking home 25% of what they say they make. So this is why it's so important when you hear people talking online about big numbers that they're making, you want to know what their expenses are to get a clear picture of what their actual profit is, because sales don't mean anything if all of that money is going back out in expenses. Like, do they have a giant ad spend? So maybe they had a really massive launch, but then 3/4 of what they made went into Facebook ads. So we want to always be clear on that. I intentionally keep my overhead pretty low. I have an assistant, a bookkeeper, an accountant, That word felt tricky. And then I hire contract people for other stuff like graphic design or media that is just beyond my skill set or really just not the way I want to use my time. Because that's the other piece is like we always want to think about how am I using my time? I was coaching someone the other day on this, and she's very much in this space of like, nobody can do anything in my business like I do it. So she's doing nearly everything in her business, and it is keeping her from scaling by holding that belief that nobody can do it like her. If you want to scale, if you want to grow a business, you have to be willing to trust that other people can do a really good job and take that off your plate, often for less time and money that would be invested if you do it yourself forever and ever. The other part of my business needs for this next 6 months is making sure I have dedicated CEO time. This is where I vision set, I plan, I run the numbers, I make decisions. It's me leading in my business. And I haven't always been the best about this, especially because our childcare the last 6 months has been mediocre at best. Not meaning the person, but that we just haven't had reliable childcare. So what's the first thing that goes? It's usually my CEO time, right? Because I'm going to focus on the tasks that are necessary, that move the needle forward the most. But truly, CEO time is actually it's incredibly important because if we don't have a vision, you don't know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, you're going to be throwing a lot of spaghetti against the wall, and then it makes your actions less powerful. So when you're planning out your business schedule, you want to figure out what the bare minimum number of hours you need every single week, and you don't want to guess. It's okay if you don't know perfectly, but we want to get clear on where and how you're using your energy and your time. So you may even want to like track it for a week or two, just jot it down. And I bet you'll be really surprised. So mine has shifted a lot, like how I use my time. When I was taking a lot of private clients back in the day, that was the bulk of how I made my revenue. I needed about 25 to 30 hours a week. And that was because I was doing like 15 hours of straight coaching calls. Like just for one-on-one client calls, I needed about 15 hours a week. And then I would spend another 10 to 15 on content and CEO time. I didn't have a lot of help back then either. I went through a period where I didn't have a VA. And so I just needed more time to create all the stuff that runs my business. And I was wearing a lot of hats in that season. Now that I've shifted my business and I'm more focused on a membership model, I need about 5 hours a week for client calls at the most. And that includes the Expand a call, which is a group call, which means I can have way more than one person on there. I can have 10 people, I can have 15 people or more, which is incredible because I get to serve more people with that same hour. And then I need about 10 hours a week for CEO time and content creation. That includes my podcast, social media, video content, all of that, for a total of about 15 hours a week. Now, the thing that I didn't totally include in these numbers is the time I spend like engaging on social media or hopping into Telegram or Voxer to, chat with my clients. That's kind of a nebulous thing. Honestly, I don't really count that time because I do it in the cracks of my day. And that's just what has served me well. I don't really love the idea of okay, I'm going to sit down for 1 hour right now and I'm going to respond to everyone and then I'm not going to talk to them the rest of the day. I like to be available to my clients within my own boundaries, of course. I don't ever cross my own boundaries, but if someone needs me, I want to be able to respond and not be like, no, you got to wait for my block tomorrow when I'm going to talk to you, right? If you're paying a premium price to coach with me, it better be a premium service. And I always am going to deliver on that. The other part of planning for the fall is thinking about the kids' needs. So the kids need about 3 hours a day for homeschooling. And for those of you who have kids in school, you may be like, what? But really, when you strip everything away that's in a normal school day, it's 3 hours max is what they need. And it's way less for my 6-year-old. I might spend 30 minutes a day doing school with him, and that's totally fine. And then the rest of the time is just play, rest, reading, exploration, family time. Like I mentioned, Classical Conversations is going to be 1 day per week. And my goal is to hire a childcare provider who can oversee their homeschooling while I work. I did this in spring 2022, and it was amazing because I hired a retired elementary school teacher who is a snowbird, and she would come to my house 2 or 3 days a week and homeschool the kids for like 3 hours. And oh my gosh, it was amazing because I knew they were getting their educational needs met. And then we could go have fun as a family afterward because I was done with my work and so were they. So I already put out some feelers on Facebook. I'm in like some groups like, hey, I am looking for that person who can help me with this, who is willing to come into my home, who loves kids, who will sit down and oversee their lessons and ask questions and support them with it, so that I can focus on my business for a few hours. And I'll be honest with you, I've gone back and forth on this so many times. I've had that guilt of like, well, I am their mother. I should be the one homeschooling them if we're going to homeschool, right? Like you see on Instagram, all of these families that homeschool and they're doing it so beautifully. And that's like the mom's whole life. And to be honest with you, I don't feel that way about homeschooling. It fits our lifestyle, it aligns with our values, but it's not my whole life. And I've just come to terms with like, that's okay for me, that's okay for my family, because everybody's still getting their needs met. And our family life isn't gonna look like everyone else's. And I don't have to make it that way, right? And I think if you're like resonating with this, just notice when you see stuff on social media and you're like, I should be doing it that way. And that is your cue that you are crossing yourself, that you are throwing yourself under the bus. Why should you do it like other people? Why? It's your life. You get to decide. So this is my goal. Like I said, it's end of June, so I'm already thinking about who I'm going to hire. I'm putting those feelers out so that I can rest easy and know that I have the help that I need. And bonus, I'm really hoping this person like wants to like do a few dishes, do some light cleaning. The person that we had before would wash my dishes for me and I wanted to cry. Like I was so grateful because I'd never asked her to do it. And she would get the kids schooled, she would make them lunch, and then she would do my dishes. And I was like, I love you. I love you. Please stay forever. But she's not going to be available for this next school year, so I do have to find someone new. So as you are thinking about your business next school year, you know, you can always come back to this episode when you're ready for it. But if you're like me and you're like, no, I'm ready for an insane next 6 months of my business. I'm so freaking here for it. Let's plan this. Let's get some momentum going. You want to plan for the business that you're going to have, not the one you currently have. So that means you are making next level decisions for where you want to go. And, you know, you may think like, okay, but I don't have any clients, or I only have like 1 or 2, or my sales aren't where I want them to be. And it's like, yeah, do you want to stay there? So if you want to stay there, keep doing things the way you've been doing it. And you can guarantee you'll continue creating that result. Or if you want more and you want different and you have big dreams for your business and for yourself, design your business in the way you plan to go. So you got to show up to your business like it is a big freaking deal, and then it will become one. Okay? That is one of the secrets of success. I want you to dedicate a minimum of 5 to 10 hours a week to working on your business. Every single one of you can do it. I have heard all of the reasons and the excuses in the book of why you can't work on your business. I promise you, you can. I've worked on my business in like every season of motherhood with no childcare. You can figure it out. Even if you don't have childcare, there's always ways. So you could work early in the morning, you work in the evenings, you can ask for help from someone else. You could do a swap with a friend. You could take kids to a drop-off place like a gym that has free childcare. I did an episode on this pretty sure. And then there's also my free mom brain training, which is like insanely good. If you have not watched that yet, I will put the link for that also in the notes on your podcast app. You can just click it and it's free and you'll get instant access. Or you can go to my website, happierandmotherhood.com, click the button for, I think it says work with me, and it should be in that drop down. But either way, you want to watch the mom brain training if you haven't done that yet, because I'm going to give you even more tips and tricks for making your business work as you are raising a family. And then finally, we want to bring it back to gratitude for where we're at, for who we're becoming, celebrating what you're doing and creating in your business. It is such a big leap of faith to say, I have this vision for where I'm going. It's not here yet. I'm willing to lay the foundation now because I believe so much in myself. I believe that I am someone who can have 5K months, 10K months, make 6 figures a year. You can do all of this, but it takes deciding now how you want your business to go, how it can support the family life you dream of, and then intentionally put that into place and manage your time like a boss. Okay, my loves, so much in this episode. I want to hear from you. Again, leave a review. Let me know especially if you've been a long-time listener. I would so appreciate that. Join me in my private Instagram feed, Time of Your Life. This is going to be the most massive catalyst. And like I said, it is only $29 a month. Oh, and there's also an optional monthly group call where you can get on Zoom with me. You can ask me all of your questions. We can go deeper into the content. You can get coached. And that is only $49 a month. It is insane. So you can get both of those for $78.99 and have mastermind level access to ideas and support. So I will see you in there. And of course, I will see you next week on the podcast.